welcome into another edition of Mountaineer Mafia. This Saturday, noon Eastern time, we will have another home game, and this time it will be against Power 5 member, the Miami Hurricanes. Not like most of you didn't already know that. This will be their first road game of the year. In my opinion, it'll also be their first real test of the year. They seem to run what's probably best described as a mix between a spread offense, and then they throw in a little bit of the power I there too. So, probably a lot of our fans are used to seeing a little bit of the power I from the old days. I'm not as familiar with how we used to run it, but it's definitely a power I formation, and they're pretty successful at it. They got two good running backs that they use in it. So, with the spread option, they will run the hurry up occasionally. They don't do it often, but they will try and take advantage of the defense if they're not set and ready. And we saw last year that did us in a couple times. Arkansas State did it very effectively against us. We have to be ready for those situations when they will run the hurry up offense. We will see it Saturday. We won't see it a lot, but we will see it, and they're going to try and catch us off guard with that. So we need to be ready for that when we see it. They do run at the base of a 4-3 defense. They used to run the 3-4 with Al Golden, and Mark Richt has come in and changed that up. He wants to be a more aggressive defense, so it's not so much watch and react. It's more, go with the plan and go all-out attack. So they're going to be blitzing, and they're going to be bringing heavy pressure as much as possible. So our offensive line has got to be ready for that. They're going to know to key on the run, so we have to be ready for an aggressive style defense. The week one, they beat Florida A&M 70-3, and FAMU is a pretty weak football team. Maybe not even as good as Howard and Hampton, which we've kind of looked at the last couple of weeks because of ODU and what we had done against them. Howard, specifically last season. So, I don't even know if they were that caliber or not, but they're definitely not up there as far as talent goes. So I didn't really read too much into that, but I did take a pretty heavy look at Florida Atlantic, who they beat last week 38-10. This game was pretty close for a lot of it until the latter part of the second half there. They started to really pull away, but that one gave you a better measuring stick. They compete in the same conference as ODU, Conference USA, so it gave us a much better look and realistic statistics than what they put up against FAMU the week previously. They have blocked 2 punts this year. Again, it was against FAMU. One of them was, but the other one was against Florida Atlantic, and they came after the punt more often than that as well. They also had a roughing the kicker penalty that they took on, so they're not going to be afraid to come after us on special teams. We have to be ready for that. Nobody can let their guard down and let somebody get by because they will be pressuring us all afternoon. They've also returned a punt for a touchdown, so we know they've got a pretty good return guy. He's actually from Raleigh, North Carolina. So we just got to be ready on special teams. It's going to be a factor in this game one way or another, and hopefully we can just be ready and prepared for that. So real quick, too, last week, ODU, we got the final score we wanted and probably needed, but we didn't really get it the way we wanted it. And for those of you who watched live or on TV, you kind of know what I mean by that. We never truly felt threatened, I would say, by ODU, but we certainly weren't putting away good chances that we had and letting, too many big plays go for them and not getting enough big plays of our own. We did have some of them, but I just don't think we had enough of them to feel really confident and really good about this game going in. I don't think that we were necessarily overlooking them. I just think that, it was a hot day, beating in the sun, and we just weren't firing quite on all cylinders, and I think once we got that first score too, I think we did let off the gas a little bit. Again, I don't think it was the underestimating, but I do think that it was anybody who's competed in a sport will know once you start to get up on a team and you think you got the ball rolling a little bit, you just let off the gas. And you don't intend to, but that's just kind of what happens. And I think that's what we saw more of last week than anything we need to be totally worried about. But hopefully these guys are up for this game. I don't think there's going to be any issue as far as that goes for this one. Especially if we can play with any kind of the intensity that we used at Tennessee. That was probably the most lacking thing that I saw last week is just the intensity level. And I think we'll bring that back this week against the U. So their most dangerous weapon and most obvious weapon is this guy right here, Brad Kaya, quarterback for him. He's definitely a dual threat QB. Although from what I watched from him, he really wasn't running as much as I expected him to take off. He did do it a few times. But he kind of reminded me of Dobbs in the fact that he looks to try and pass more often than he's going to look to run. So he's got a pretty dangerous arm. I would say he's probably more accurate than Dobbs from what I've seen. And I would say he's probably more athletic, and I don't mean that as a knock on Dobbs as so much as this guy is just a little lighter, a little more shifty. So, he's just got that quicker movement maybe. Dobbs is kind of a little bit heavier of a quarterback in the muscle department, and so he's a little shiftier and just can seemingly get around a little quicker. So we got to be ready for that too when he does take off. Just a note though, he did throw 2 picks last week against Florida Atlantic, so he is susceptible to some bad decisions. So hopefully we can take advantage of any of those he uses this Saturday. Next up, we've got running back Mark Walton. He is a pretty good threat, I would say. And the best way to describe it is kind of like Ray Lowry a little bit as far as the combination of size and speed. I would say, though, that the guy's definitely got more power. He's taller, and he's got more muscle build than Lowry. And, watching him run, he's not afraid to take on a hit and get through a couple of those to get some yardage. And that's the reason he's number 1 on their depth chart. But, he's followed very closely by Joe Yearbley. And he is the smaller, shiftier of the 2 athletes there. It's a 1-2 punch that reminds me somewhat of ours. Marcus Cox is a little bit bigger and willing to go up the gut and take those hard yards on, which is what Walton does. And then this guy comes in, Yearby, and, he's probably trying to look to go to the outside a little bit more and get those feet going a little faster to pick up the yardage more than using his power. Although he can put his shoulders down and get through some tackles as well. So we just need to be careful of that, because if anybody on either side, really, our backs or theirs, get enough time and space, they're going to be dangerous. So it's going to be a run-heavy game, in my opinion, as long as the defenses can do their job. We should have a pretty low-scoring game, in my opinion. I think that's what we're going to see more of. More of the Tennessee app-style scoring there than what we've seen out of these guys so far this season, or what we saw out of ourselves last week with ODU. The D side for the U, as I'm watching the game and as I'm reading about them online, I don't see one big heavy standout defensively for the Miami Hurricanes this season. I'm sure that within the next couple weeks one might show himself a little bit more, but I don't see like a big standout stud there. So what I did see was a pretty cohesive unit. They looked to play together pretty well. They didn't really give up any big plays. A lot of the stuff was pretty short yardage. And, they were hustling to the ball much like we did against Tennessee. I mean, they're just gang tackling, and there's multiple guys there on just about every tackle. Moving on to Marcus Cox last week. Ran for 3 touchdowns. He had a pretty impressive performance. Nothing too worrisome. I think he did get a little banged up, but came back into the game. I don't really have any worries about him coming into this one. He's going to be up for this one. Georgia guy, and seeing Coach Rick out there, I'm sure he's going to want to impress. Because I believe he was not recruited to UGA, so he's going to want to show out a little bit in this one. I expect another heavy workload that we'll give to him, and I expect him to have some success against Tennessee due to our O-line coming up with the good blocking schemes for him again. I think we're going to see a lot of misdirection, so we can see a lot of different looks from Marcus up the gut, on the outside, some tosses to him. So we're going to keep him moving, and hopefully not too many handoffs up the gut, but, we will see that, and he will get his yards. I don't know if it'll eclipse 100-yard in this one because I think this may be one of the best defense we've seen this year. Tennessee obviously was really good too, but these guys could be better. It's hard to say a little bit early in the season, but we'll see how that goes. Next up, Taylor Lamb. Last week, I didn't see as much passing out of him as I wanted to see. I was hoping Satterfield would go to the air a little bit more, a little bit lesser of a defense that we saw, and get these guys some confidence going in, both Taylor and the receiver core. I was really hoping to see some more air attack. I didn't see enough of it. We did go and use Barrett Burns a little bit more, which I was impressed with, but kind of seemed after that first drive or two, we didn't go to him quite as much. So maybe we get back to that. I think we throw in some looks that Miami might not be expecting and definitely hasn't seen from us yet. I think maybe part of the plan last week was to hold back on some of that coming into this week, is just not to show everything we got and, give Taylor another week to work with the new wideouts, see if he's got a little bit more chemistry built up with someone specific and try and take advantage of that this Saturday. We'll see. Again, Taylor also from the state of Georgia and apparently also not recruited by UGA, even though he was, player of the year in the state of Georgia, I believe. So I'm sure he's going to want to have a big game, and I hope Satterfield lets him have some throws here that, really let him show his ability because, again, I think he's fine. I think we just need to get the green receivers a little less green, and hopefully this is one of those games where we can really break them in. So that's my next question. Which one of these guys is going to step up? Shaden Metters, we haven't seen enough from him out of this season, in my opinion. He's got all the acrobatic catches you could ever want, but I want to see a little bit more consistency in targeting him, first of all, and secondly, with him getting open to make those big plays for us. And then Deltron Hopkins, his speed is vastly, underrated when it comes to the other team. I don't know how many times he's run that jet sweep, at least a handful of times already this season, and it seems like no one's ever prepared for it and always caught off guard by how fast he is. So hopefully we can get him into some open spaces with more of those sweeps or some throws to the outside and take advantage of a short screen pass or something. I really want to see more out of him and the rest of the receiving core. I was also a little disappointed last week that Rubino didn't see more kicking attempts. We could really use that experience going into this one. I think we're going to need to put points up on the board when we're, 30 yards out, probably, a 4th and 7 situation. We probably won't be attempting to go for it. I want to see a kick out of this kid. Again, we know he's got the leg, but we want his confidence to be up for the rest of the season. And what better time than now to get it ready for a big game this weekend? We didn't quite see that last week. We ran a fake that ended up being horrendous. I would have rather seen a kick there, to be honest. But we'll see. I still have confidence in him, but I just hope that everybody else does. I hope his teammates are telling him that, they got the trust and confidence in him when he goes out there to make a kick. And we'll see what he does. He's hopefully getting a lot of extra point attempts with points put on the board. But, I'd rather see some long-distance ones and see what he's made out of. So, overall, I think it's going to be another test of a game for both teams, really. I expect little points because I think we're going to see a lot of running on both sides of the ball. I don't see a shootout of any sort. I think defenses are going to keep it pretty in check. I don't know how many big plays we'll see. Some missed assignments and passing attempts or two could open up the field a little bit. But I think we're going to both sides keep it on the ground pretty good and hopefully keep Miami out of the end zone as much as possible. But they got some weapons, so I expect them to see pay dirt a couple times, and hopefully we just see it more than them. And I think, lastly, get our defense just back up to that Tennessee level. I think they're ready to do it, and I think this game is nothing really has to be said to them. I think they're going to be ready. They're just going to be ready to show out on TV at home against Miami. So I think they're going to be ready. These linebackers here, Stringer, Law, Boggs. I mean, they're ready. They want it. They want us as bad as anybody else. So I don't think we have to worry about that. But I hope they come to play and put on a show for everyone watching nationally this Saturday at 12 noon. See you guys at the Rock.